Hi, so there's something I want to talk about because I'm interested in there's a couple of Nintendo things going on right now, and I kind of want to just like freeform talk about it because it's fascinating me. There's some things that are going down that people aren't going to like, but there's stuff that's going on the side that's technically by all means shouldn't happen, but here we are. So Nintendo's raising the price of its original Switch consoles and other products effective August 3rd. That time has come and passed. The decision was based on market conditions, which basically goes back to the whole discussion on the tariffs. Now, there was a tariff trade deal that was signed recently where they went from 27 or 24% to about 15%, which is still higher than the initial 10% that the deal started on, but it is what it is, I guess. So we're assuming that the tariffs, the 15% tariff, there's still kind of concerns about that because they're worried about certain goods overlapping tariffs. What, like, say if one thing is 15%, will it overlap with other things that are 15%, or does the 15% stack on itself for every additional Japanese good that's being imported into the United States? So there's questions that are there. There's valid questions that are there, but they're still sorting the details out and figuring out what exactly is going on and what they're going to be paying for. So this is initial market fears and questions. So Nintendo is doing a preemptive thing where they're basically setting it up to where, okay, we're going to change the price of certain goods, the original Switch OLEDs, the non-OLEDs, and the Switch Lites. They're going to up the price of those things, and they're going to up the price of the Joy-Con 2s to preemptively eat a lot of the tariff stuff or whatever, and kind of make their money back, so to speak. So it's like mitigating damage, basically. So the price hikes for those, I'm going to show you those real quick because this is from Wario64 via OJ Player Essence. The Switch OLEDs are now $399.99 from $350. The non-OLEDs are $339.99 from $300, and the Switch Lites are $299.99 from $200. So there's that, which obviously, respectively, is $50, $39, and $29 up from what they originally were. That's not a lot, but that's still quite a bit for people that are busting their butts trying to make enough money to get things that entertain them. Remember, gaming is a luxury, so having to pay more for gaming is kind of a problem. It's something that people look at and they're like, you know what, maybe I don't want to get that right now. Maybe I'll wait until I can find a way to get it or whatever. And if they're promising to possibly raise prices of like the Switch 2 and other things in the future, that's kind of, I guess you're creating a timetable to where people would want to get that before it goes up in price. But at the same time, if you can't afford it, you can't afford it. Like I just upgraded my computer, so there's no way I'm going to be able to get a Switch 2 right now in good conscience. So I'm going to have to wait until next year, depending on how things go, because I have bills to pay. I got a mortgage to pay. I got to keep the lights on. I got children to take care of. It's a little bit more for me to deal with than if it were just the early days where it was just me and my wife living in a one-bedroom apartment paying what was it, $550 a month. God, I miss those days. Simpler times. But yeah, I have things going on, so I'm not going to be able to afford that. And I know you guys got stuff going on. You guys work or whatever. You're going through stuff. You're going to have to like eat some of this cost or whatever. Now, they can only raise it so much because if they go too far, they're going to price themselves out of the market. That's the problem. So it's interesting because I want to see what exactly, how much money are you really willing to put down on this? Because that's this is already causing a little bit of stir. I get it. Honestly, I'm more interested in the why and how and what's going on around that. But hey, so let's see what the comments are. What the hell? A price increase for the OG Switch after 8 years? I missed a good $99 GameCube days. Yeah, me too. Those days are long gone. The Switch OLED is reaching Switch 2 price hike. Yikes. Can't believe Nintendo would be taking a loss on 8-year-old hardware even with the tariffs. This looks like total disregard for the consumers so that they can maintain the same profit margins. Clearly their choice to make, but how much consumer goodwill is sacrificing? Well, they're going to have to eat a lot of that. And you can't put it on the customer too much. Walmart's kind of seeing the same problem. You can't put the cost on the customer too much, because if you do that, you're going to price yourself out of the market. So they're going to have to figure out where that delicate balancing act is to where they can actually put some of that on the customer or put some of that on other additional things instead of actually having to eat a lot of that themselves. I mean, it's one of those things where you kind of have to look at things from their perspective too, but a lot of people aren't willing to do that, mainly because all they see is corporation bad and they don't understand how it is to run a business. But hey, so moving on, let's talk a bit about the game keycard situation. Nintendo sends out second game keycard and physical games survey because people seem to not have a general idea of how game keycards work. I don't get it. I don't understand it, but whatever. Nintendo has already been doing a little survey and gathering of feedback, as we reported a few weeks back, with regards to physical and digital game sales, including how game keycards are going down. Spoiler alert, they aren't really going down very well at all. Now, as reported by Eurogamer, the Big N is back at it with a fresh survey. For those interested in the survey, get busy filing in. Indeed, you can click right here to do just that. The latest survey asks a whole bunch of questions related to how you feel about purchasing digital and physical media in various ways. As you can see for our screens, they mostly want to know how strongly you feel about the physical game card, actually having the game, whether or not you care about that, or in how whether being in a store or buying online affects your thinking, stuff like that, mate. Now, physical media is king. There's a tangible aspect to physical media, and that's the main appeal to it. That's why I still have my video and DVD collection. That's why I still have my physical game collection. I buy things online and I buy stuff digitally now, but that's mainly because of the convenience aspect of it. If I were to have the option of getting that physical, like say Assault Suits Vulcan Declassified, I will get the physical version because I want that tangible aspect to it. And I want something that I know is going to last me a very long time. It's something I can give to my kids. And when I get older or too old to game, I hope that never happens. But it's something where I want to have that physically in my hands and physically there for me to look at, to remind me, hey, I still got to beat this game. I haven't beat this game yet. When I have digital games, the digital games kind of sit until I actually go through the libraries when I'm on Steam or GOG. I want something that's there to remind me that, hey, I still have mountains to climb. I still have demons to slay, shit like that. Yeah, let's see what people are saying about that. Nothing's going to change. These companies are not going away from game keycards no matter what. This is all performative in my opinion. They don't want people owning their games anymore, period. Now, the game keycard situation, it's interesting because the whole concept of game keycards, and we've kind of had this discussion on RNH, you're downloading a digital game onto a physical dongle. Once that's on there, the license is actually on the cartridge, and you can resell this if you want to. You can also play it offline without having to worry about having to be near Wi-Fi access in order to play those games, which is an issue I've had with physical copies of Mega Man 11, whereas my power went out because we had a huge storm roll through here last year, and I tried to play Mega Man 11 while I was waiting for the power to cut back on because I still had my Steam Deck and my Switch. But you got to connect to Capcom servers. So the things that they're mad about for the keycard situation are the things that actually are problems that exist in the cartridge situation. And it seems to be based off of what exactly the developers are doing. That's a Capcom choice. I could pop all 8 of those games in and play those right out the gate. Mega Man 9 and 10, I have them on WiiWare. I don't have the Mega Man Legacy Collection. So I have to fire up the Wii U and play Mega Man 9 and 10 on that through my WiiWare collection. And thank God I still have those. And then Mega Man 11 has to connect to the server or connect to a leaderboard or whatever was going on in that situation. And that really kind of made me feel a different way. This is why I haven't played 11 yet, because I'm still a little salty about that. Now, game key releases are only part of the problem. Publishers are demonstrating an unwillingness or perhaps a technical inability to provide upgrade paths for Switch 1 titles to Switch 2 versions. Few upgrade packs have been made available, with Square Enix opting to instead give the Switch 1 version of Dragon's Quest III HD 2D a Switch 2 update with performance and graphic options. In doing so, they actively give Switch 2 owners conflicting purchase options. Switch 1 physicals locked at reduced performance and graphical capabilities, or Switch 2 digital exclusives. Thankfully, a few publishers are getting this right. Bandai Namco's recent Shadow Labyrinth release provided a free Switch 2 upgrade pack that works with a Switch 1 physical, and Level 5 provided an inexpensive upgrade pack for Fantasy Life 1. That's kind of cool. That's good. Now, again, this is just showing me personally that this is an issue that falls squarely on the shoulders of the actual publishers themselves. Now, I had a conversation earlier, and I was just kind of dumping ideas for a video this video that I was working on, and I was kind of pointing out that so I'm gonna read it verbatim, basically what I wrote out. I'm brain dumping for the potential video, but you notice that the obvious answer to the Switch 2 card situation would be for developers to compress their games to fit under the requirements, and yet publishers will not allow this because uncompressed games with astronomical file sizes are done on purpose to drive up costs for the jump. Now that's kind of how I feel. Like I feel like they're deliberately doing this in order to get you to buy the Switch 2 version, which is the more expensive, it might be the more expensive copy. And this is not something that's limited to just the Switch. This is something that has happened in other aspects too, mainly in PC gaming, where games are left uncompressed, mainly to get you to wind up buying an SSD card to cover the difference. Why is it that remasters of games that were maybe about 10 gigs are now like 100 gigs? That doesn't make any sense, right? But then when you realize that like this is mainly to get you to go buy an SSD card, because they probably have like under the table deals with SSD card manufacturers in order to get certain things, much like the graphics card manufacturers. You're noticing a lot of games, especially on the PC end, have either they have like little taglines about being attached to Nvidia or being attached to Intel, mainly because this game that has all this ray tracing and all this bloom and all this other stuff, due to all the lighting effects, which really don't amount to jack shit unless you're that much of a bleeding tech enthusiast, they're there in order to force you to buy all these newer graphics cards in order to be able to play these games. And once you realize that, you can't unsee it. So the publishers are basically doing this in order to get you to mitigate their costs, because those big cartridges obviously are going to cost more on the consumer end. So if they can get you to pay more, they can still give Nintendo their cut, and they can actually net a decent profit too. It's a bad thing. It's kind of fucked up, but like that's how they make their bread, and that's how that is. So in this type of conversation, it's funny because they can do this and then they'll turn around and basically they can get off scot-free, because most people are going to look at Nintendo as the culprit, when not understanding that it's kind of everybody's doing the same thing. It's just you're only noticing the end product. Despite all of that going on, for some reason, Nintendo is making money hand over fist over the Switch 2. And that's the part that kind of confuses me. The company earlier revealed that it sold 5.2 million Switch units. So earlier on Friday, Nintendo reported fiscal first quarter earnings that beat expectations. It's disclosed that the sales of the Switch 2 consoles hit 5.82 million since its June 5th release. The company also maintained its forecast of 15 million Switch 2 sales this fiscal year, though analysts suggested that this may be conservative, which means that they might actually hit their goal and then some by in the next couple of months. Remember, we have not made it to Black Friday yet, or the holiday shopping season. Which, if the holiday shopping season is as big as they think it might be, you're probably going to see more sales than that, because this is the hot thing. Regardless of how you feel about Mario Kart World and Donkey Kong Bonanza, apparently they're doing quite well. They're getting rave reviews, and people are really excited for those games. I've played Bonanza. I played the demo for Bonanza, and it's really good. it was doing a lot of things that I wasn't expecting it to do. It was actually a step above Odyssey in terms of the type of things that were going on in that game. Like the ability to climb, the ability to destroy, that heavily destructible environments and everything on the table there. It's doing a lot of good stuff. So if more people, word of mouth takes over, and people will actually find that they want a copy of Bonanzas because they want to play that, but they got to get a Switch 2 to get it. And if they get a Switch 2, they might want to get the Mario Kart World bundle, which is makes the game $50 because it's a pack-in title. Then that's why you're seeing the sales hit the number that it is. It's just wild that for the prices going up and for the price being as high as it is, the demand is actually meeting it and kind of surpassing it. So I'm interested in, I want to see where this holiday sales period is going to lead to, because that's going to have some interesting questions here. Notice how I'm doing this whole video where I'm just talking about the speculative aspects of this, and it's easy to do a video where you're talking about how people are mad because of whatever, GameCube cards, price hikes, all this other stuff. But I want to know what exactly is going on. This is the thing that interests me, because this is kind of telling a different story than what you would normally see. Mainly when the internet is mad about something, it just focuses on the internet being mad and not the fact that maybe the vocal majority on the internet is actually the minority in the consensus. Because the total number of people that purchase Nintendo consoles, whatever, are in higher amounts. And they aren't on Twitter whining about this or getting mad about this or whatever. They're actually playing games and enjoying themselves and just distancing themselves from the internet, because the internet at large is kind of a net negative on society. But that's a whole other story. Anyways, I'm going to get out of here. Thank you for joining me for this. See you next boss fight. Take care.